Would you like to do extensive travel when you retire or immerse yourself in a particular community for 1 to 3 months at a time? But you're saying, I don't know how to. Well, Andrew Motiwala of The Good Life Abroad has figured it all out, has made it super streamlined. You're going to want to watch this all the way through. We hope you've been enjoying all the episodes from Secure Your Retirement. If you'd like to keep learning and receiving these episodes, hit the subscribe button and the bell so you receive alerts when they come out. We've helped thousands of listeners get on the path to securing their retirement. Now it's your turn. Let's dive in. Welcome, everyone, to the Secure Your Retirement podcast. We love doing this podcast. Sometimes we talk about investments or what's going on in the world. Sometimes we talk about very specific retirement planning topics. But today we get to have a little bit more fun with it and talk about lifestyle in retirement. And what we've done is we've found someone who helps people travel and kind of hit some of those big bucket list trips that are very difficult to plan, take a lot of thought. And so we've got someone that's going to help streamline it for you. His name is Andrew Motiwala. He's the owner of The Good Life Abroad. So first off, Andrew, thank you for carving out some time with us here and hanging out for a little bit.
Hey, Merce, thanks for having me.
Great. So, Andrew, I want to kind of understand. You and I, we spoke for a couple minutes before we started recording here, and got a good understanding of the company. But we're going to tell everyone about the who you are, what your process is, why you do what you do. But before we could go into that, would you mind just giving us a little bit of background as to where you kind of came from and what led you to create this company called The Good Life Abroad, and then we'll talk about what it actually is.
Sure. I fell in love with travel actually in college doing a semester abroad, and that was the initial spark, which then led me to do the Peace Corps, where I lived abroad for about 2.5 years, and then really fell in love with the idea of international living. And then fast forward a bit, I started a travel company about 20 years ago that started with student travel, eventually led to family travel, which over time evolved into multi-generational, which is a big thing nowadays in the travel industry. Grandparents, kids, and grandkids. Of course, the grandparents are paying for it all. But during that period, I met with a lot of people who were retired or semi-retired. And they'd say to me, Andrew, we love these trips. These are great. We take our grandkids and have quality time. But why isn't there a travel company for retired people who have time? That's the one thing we have where we don't have to rush around and get on the bus, get off the bus, check into this hotel, check out of the hotel. We have time. Can we just slow it down a bit and let us explore things at our own pace? And that was sort of the impetus for the Good Life Abroad. So that sort of sparked the initial idea. And then when the pandemic hit, a lot of people became started working from home and became digital nomads. So they would go work from all these crazy places in the world. And what I'd hear from a lot of our older folks, they'd say, "How come all the young kids have this fun? They can live in these different places." And I was like, let's combine these ideas and create a really easy turnkey way for people 55 and older to go live abroad for a month or two, but with a program that's sort of tailored to their needs.
All right. Well, that's great. It's nice to know that you've kind of been in this industry for a very long time and you've just kind of honed into as far as what it is you really like doing, which is rather unique, I would say. So that's great, Andrew. So tell us then, because what we do talk about quite a bit when in financial planning and retirement planning is, well, the first thing is if there's something to look forward to in retirement, it shifts our goals, it shifts the way we think, it shifts how we save and everything like that. If there's something out there on the horizon that we can say, I want to get to this point so I can do that. And then when we get to retirement, we help people kind of think through, well, what their budget could be for travel, whether it's extensive or an annual travel budget. And sometimes we'll call it a fun fund of, we want to do something and we need to get hone in on what that fund truly is to you. And for a lot of people, it is travel because they didn't get to travel a lot when they were raising their family or, tied to their careers. And so I think you're exactly right that there's more time on hand. So let me ask you this. What is the difference? And it seems like you operated at one point as more of that traditional type of travel agent, but this sounds a little bit different. So tell me, what is it that the Good Life Abroad does that's different than just your traditional travel agent.
Yeah. A traditional tour company sort of helps you maximize and see as much as you can in a relatively short period of time. If you think about a traditional tour, every day you're kind of getting up, hopping on the bus, and going to see a bunch of sites. Um, and you just do that for whatever the length of time. And similar with a cruise, cruises are great because you could jump into these different ports, see a lot of different cities over a relatively short period of time, and jump from place to place. What we do is sort of the inverse, which is take you to one place and just stay there for a longer period of time. And we are not a tour company at all. Actually, it's more of an independent experience where you get to live abroad like a local, but you have the support of local staff that we have on the ground to support you, and you have a community of fellow travel lovers who all have their apartments sort of in the same neighborhood as you. So 5 minutes away, there's someone else living there and someone else living that way, and you can meet up. And then we're putting on events and activities, cooking classes, happy hours, lunches, tours, different things throughout the course of a month. But it's not really a tour where you're every day getting together. You can jump in, be social, do a cooking class for a couple of hours, and then bounce out and do your own thing. So it's more about independent living abroad, but with the support of the local staff, your community. And of course, we provide medical insurance and have a network of English-speaking medical professionals because these are concerns that people have, especially as we get older and we might need some sort of medical attention.
Right. Yeah. Well, that sounds really nice. I know when I go on trips here and there, or you take the cruise, and oftentimes closer to the end of that trip, people are pretty much saying, I'm exhausted and I'm kind of ready to get back. And because it is really crammed in, all those tour guides, the buses, getting on the boat, getting off the boat, and it just feels like it's going so fast that you don't really get to take the time to actually enjoy it or immerse yourself into it, like you said. So that seems pretty good for someone that's got the time and the willingness to spend a month or two or three in a certain area. So, what areas do you guys try to help people put these really nice plans together for? What type of travel are we talking about? Where to?
So we exclusively focus on Western Europe right now. So we have programs in different cities in Spain, and we're in Paris, Portugal, and Italy. We're in Florence, Sardinia, Sicily. We're in Split, Croatia, Vienna, Austria, Amsterdam, Prague. You name it. We try to focus on these iconic cities that have so much to offer that allow people to go really deep, um, and just you won't get bored there for a month, right? There's so much to explore, and it's sort of like an onion. I think of most of these places as onions. You may have been there before for 2 days or 3 days on a tour, and you saw like the checklist of like the biggest things, the Eiffel Tower and this and that. But Paris, for example, you can keep peeling back the layers of Paris and it never gets old. In fact, you go deeper and deeper and you discover more and more things. And that's sort of the joy that our people get from spending a whole month there. It's a much deeper appreciation and really feeling like they've immersed themselves into the local rhythm of life.
Yeah, that does sound very nice. So going back to a little bit more of logistics, we pick a destination, I guess, and we can talk more about your process of how we land on that destination and what it takes to actually engage with you. But a destination gets picked. Is that in like certain uh I guess like launch time? So imagine a cruise, right? You have to be at the boat at that certain day. Because it sounds like this is a bit of group travel, or is it kind of they pop in and pop out at different times? And then the follow up to that is it sounds like you guys arrange for all of the housing at the very least, maybe not all the food and everything. So what's kind of included in this program that you're putting together for people?
Yeah, great question. So we think of this whole thing as a community experience, right? It's independent, but it's a community of people. You're not just on your own. And so therefore, it is cohort based. So let's say you pick a city, a date, and then I'll kind of walk you briefly through the process. So a month before you go, we'll do a Zoom call. Everyone on the program will get on, our local staff will get on. We'll kind of walk through the program and arrival details, etc. And then everyone arrives on the same day. So again, a cohort. And then we check into our apartments, everyone gets settled in. The next morning, we do an orientation where we teach you Here's your subway card. Here's how to ride public transit. Again, we want to empower you to live like a local. And then here's the grocery store. Here's like the homeware store. And then we break and kind of set you free. That evening, we have a big welcome party, maybe at a rooftop bar or something. And then they go through this month-long experience. Like you said, it's not every day. We're not like holding your hand, but we come together for these fun activities, little touch points for the community. So that's sort of the cohort community nature of it. And then what's included is we provide kind of a upscale. I wouldn't say luxury, but it's not budget accommodations either. Some vetted apartments, specifically vetted for people 55 and older. I don't know if you've had the experience in Europe in like a hotel room where you're like, I can't turn around the shower,
Right.
like I the toilet is bumping into the sink. So no, that's not for us. So we work with certain property management firms and have a list of amenities and sort of standards that we need for our people. So, like a walk-in shower, for example, a kitchen where you can actually cook, with pots and pans. So we provide the apartment, the schedule of activities that we do throughout the month, and then our local staff person. And the local staff person is sort of think of them as your concierge. So you're there for a month in Florence. I want to go to Rome or Venice for the weekend. They'll kind of guide you through like, how to get your either bus tickets, train tickets, rent a car, or give you recommendations for a place to eat, things to do. Excuse me. Um, and of course, the medical insurance that I mentioned earlier. So that's sort of everything you need to live abroad safely, securely, and socially with friends around you.
Right. Yeah, that sounds fantastic. Um, and so it makes me think about wanting to do this like very
It makes
soon
you wish you were
myself
55.
if I had the time. Yeah. So what is the the most common, I guess, age and are they retired? Are they not retired? Like, what's the most common client that your team works really well with?
Right. So they're all 55 and older, and there's sort of a couple of subgroups within there. We have the 55 to 60, the young retirees. Maybe they're still working on serving on boards or they're still somewhat involved in the business. Um, and that's a great community for us because they're still very active and they want to just do a lot. And they've sort of been working really hard in order to get to this somewhat early retirement. And they want their dreams to come true, right? And so
Right.
we'll get those. And what we found is many of those will just go from one city for a month, like Paris to Amsterdam to Vienna, and sort of live out the dream. And then we've got sort of the 69-year-old is sort of the average across the board. So you retired maybe at 65, 66. You did some independent travel. We get a lot of this. I went on a lot of travel when I retired, but it was sort of the tours and the cruises, which were great. But one guy said it to me best. He said, it was like a wine tasting. We just had a sample of a lot of places. And now I want to go back and drink the whole bottle. So I want to
Right.
go back to that one
That's
place.
perfect.
And so those people who retired just went nuts on travel and now actually want to slow it down a bit. And a program like ours, they think of sort of as a slow travel alternative. And then there's sort of a subgroup as well, which I would say is about 25% of our people who are people who are seriously thinking about becoming expats. Like they're like, I'm going to move abroad,
Right.
but it's a really big decision.
Yeah.
And so they use us as sort of a way to do a scouting trip, to live there, have the support, security, all of that, friends around them, and then go for a month and then check out a city in depth and decide, do I really want to do this? And if so, what's the right neighborhood? What are the traffic patterns? What's the noise like, etc.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned the community or cohorts. So how many people on average are typically kind of in the same place at the same time?
Yeah, it varies month to month, but on average, it's about 16 people. On the
Okay.
high end, it might go as high as like 22. On the low end, it might go down to 10, but it's on average 15, 16 people.
Yeah. So small enough to where you can make some good relationships with people in your community, you
It's
know.
amazing how strong of friendships are formed in these
Right.
things. We hear this a lot. People say, I didn't think I really needed community. I'm a veteran traveler. I've been there, done that. And they come out of this going, wow. And I think it's because when you retire, right? Your identity kind of goes up in flux. Like you're not your identity used to be about who you were in the workplace, for example. Your friends may have been people, other parents at the kids' school, but the kids are gone and you're not working anymore. And so like what's the thing that you form community around? And I think with the Good Life Abroad, the thing that is the through line across all of our people is this deep love of travel and cultural immersion. Those are really our folks. And so when they come together, they suddenly found these like-minded people who are like, "Oh, wow, you love this as well." Like we're all well traveled. That's like
Right.
table stakes. But now this is like the deeper, more immersive, kind of pushing the envelope type of traveler. And suddenly they have this whole tribe. And I've seen that they meet up afterwards in different cities around America, or they might go do another trip together with the Good Life Abroad. So it's really pretty beautiful to see the sense of community form.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. So tell me, from, you could have, and this happens a lot in our world too, where we have people that say, I don't want to plan this. I don't have the ability to do this or the focus or the detail to be able to do this. And then on the other side, I have someone else that says, I love managing investments. I love doing the research on Social Security. I love doing all of this. So I don't really need your help. So help someone understand the difference between trying to plan all this yourself versus a group like yours that you said something earlier to me, which I think is very important, vetted places, right? So help our listeners understand the difference between trying to do this yourself versus partnering with someone like you.
Yeah. I'll start by saying, first of all, I'm a big fan of living abroad, however you want to do it. So by no means am I here to encourage people to go with a good life abroad. I think if you're into this kind of thing, you should do it however suits you best. Um, but I would say a couple things to sort of be careful or to be mindful of if you're going to live abroad. One is what you mentioned around apartments. Sometimes you go on one of these short-term vacation rental sites and the photos aren't actually the reality. And you get there like, oh, okay, this there must have been a filter or a certain lens that made this thing look a lot better. So if you're going to go abroad for an extended period of time, the level of risk goes up, right? Because you're going to be locked into something for a month or two or three. So that's one thing to be careful of, and that's one thing that the Good Life Abroad provides is vetting these apartments to make sure that they're of a standard that we can explain to you. We've actually been in these apartments and we can tell you exactly what to be aware of. Of course, they're going to be different from American apartments or European, but at least we can tell you clearly what the differences are and what the pain points might be, right? Secondly, the other thing to be mindful of, if you're going to be abroad for a long period of time, it can get lonely. It sounds wonderful, but if you're a foreigner and if you perhaps don't speak the local language, it can be harder to make friends. And sort of after a month or two, you might leave you feeling a little bit lonely and you might meet some people here and there, and that's great. So I think the sense of community is actually really important. It makes living abroad really enjoyable, knowing I've got some friends around the corner and maybe we can meet up for to go do a workout, a yoga, or we can go out to dinner, etc. So community, I think, is something people should think about. And you can form a community on your own as well. And I think you doing things like frequenting the same places and slowly developing relationship is really important. The other thing to be mindful of is medical and healthcare. You're on your own, and having a really clear plan, like a safety plan or a medical plan, whenever you go somewhere like this, and much more if you're traveling on your own, right? So we have a lot of solo travelers. I would say about 30% of our people are solo travelers. And they say to me, Andrew, I just love the idea that there's someone in this town who's got my back and is like there for me if anything were to happen. Um, Plus, you have the medical insurance and you've got the English speaking medical care. So those are things I think if you're going to do it on your own to be mindful of. But that's sort of the difference when you go with us. You have all these things taken care of, your community, your lodging, your support system, and your kind of safety plan in place.
Right. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And that's kind of what we try to do here too, is make sure from a retirement planning perspective, everything is kind of done for you if that's what you want. And like you said, and I say, there's plenty of people that are out there that can do it all themselves, but not everyone wants to.
Yeah.
So I think this is really cool, and it sounds rather unique. I haven't really I've come across travel agents that will help you book things and then kind of disappear on you, but this sounds very uh, interesting if you really wanted to find a way to immerse yourself in a particular area for a period of time. Uh, uh what would you say is the easier one? Say you've never really traveled before, especially outside the US. What would be an easier one to say, yep, I could go live there for a month or two and, language wouldn't be an issue and just it's somewhat similar to the way it is here in the US. What would be one of the more common ones there?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think of it sort of as a continuum, right? And there's some places that are a little more challenging. So on the easiest side would be London. Obviously, they speak English. It's a very cosmopolitan city, very easy to get around. But then if you go a little bit more on the range, I think Lisbon, Portugal is a great city for this because it is different, but it's a city, it's a capital city, but it's not a giant capital city. It's very walkable, very contained. You can really wrap your arms around Lisbon. And even though the language is Portugal, English is very widely spoken, so you can get by on English. And so I feel like for a lot of people, this is a great like next place to go because it's a little bit out of your comfort zone, but it's actually very manageable. And after a month, people feel like this is my city. Like I really know it. And then if you really push and you go on the far, far other extreme for the really seasoned traveler, I'll just throw this out. I think Sardinia is a little known jewel. So a lot of people have been to Italy. They've been to, Venice and Rome and Florence, and those are wonderful cities. But the island of Sardinia, which belongs to Italy, and the this main city on the island is Cagliari. It's it's like an undiscovered gem, right? Not a lot of people speak English. It's Italian. It's very Italian. It's actually Sardinian. They actually speak Sardo. It's a local language, a derivation of Italian. But if you want to go to the Italy of, yesteryear, or the kind of what you imagined before all the tourists figured it out, Sardinia is such a great place. But it is a little more challenging, and there's like old, historical steps just to get around the city. These like stone steps and
Right.
hills, but very worth your while.
Okay. Well, that sounds great. Definitely something to think about for our listeners. Last question for you as we kind of wrap up. If someone wanted to explore what you guys do at the Good Life Abroad a little bit further, what would be your best recommendation on kind of what the next steps are and then better ways for them to understand who you are?
Sure. I would encourage you to go to the website, www.thegoodlifeabroad.com, and you can read about the different cities and the programs. And we have specific, we call them info sheets that go in detail on each city. If you go to a city, there's a little form, you fill it out. And then once you start to understand what we do, and first decide whether it's right for you, because this is not for everyone, I'll tell you that. Many people do not actually want to live like a local. They are used to staying in a hotel where if there's something, they can just call the front desk and send up more towels or whatever.
Right.
Living like a local is not for everyone. So first of all, I'd say read about it and think about whether it's for you or not, because again, um, and then once you learn more about it and you want to get deeper, you can contact our office. But we also have a private Facebook group for people who have gone on the program or people who are seriously considering going. And that's a great way to talk directly to other people who have done it and learn about, the great points about it and also things to be aware of because again, it is a very different experience to live in a European apartment versus, typical Americans coming from a house that's several thousand square feet large. It's a very different experience.
Yeah. Okay. Well, for everyone listening, we will make sure to have the website listed in the show notes. It is the goodlifeabroad.com. And I went on there earlier. There's a ton of information on there. So if you have any interest in it, check out the website. But really, that's all we've got for you today. Thanks for tuning in, Andrew. Thank you so much for your time and kind of introducing us to something that not a lot of people are doing out there. So thanks a lot.
Thanks, Merce. I appreciate it.
We hope you have enjoyed this episode of Secure Your Retirement. If you would like to learn more, we have actually created an online course called 3 Keys to Secure Your Retirement. This video course helps you to think through all the different steps as you get ready to plan for and live throughout retirement. You can access this by going to our website, pomwealth.net. In addition, you can also subscribe below to our podcast called Secure Your Retirement.
For more retirement tips, check out these videos. Also, if you find them valuable, please subscribe to our YouTube channel and give us a like.